It's a macrame ornament time. These are my favorite of the Make.Do crafts. And if you've never done macrame before, this is a really good place to start. We're gonna cover 3 knots: the lark's head knot, the gathering knot, and the square knot. I feel like they're putting a shadow on my face though. I'll move them out of the way. And that's it. It's just a combination of those knots over and over and over. So give yourself some patience if you haven't ever done this before, because getting the technique of the knot with your hands can feel a little bit daunting at first, but I promise you will develop the muscle memory for it as you go. So you will need, apart from your kit, a pair of scissors. You'll need something to hang your ornaments on. So I'm using, you can't see the top of it, but I have a coat rack that then, good grief, that then I have, I'm using these little laundry hooks. So I got these at Walmart. So if you want to run to Walmart and get laundry hooks, you can. Alternatively, I have used at my house a dresser, like the drawers on the, what do you call those? The drawer pulls on a dresser. You can just hang your ornament on that. You can use a towel hook. If you have any hooks in your house that you hang a towel or a jacket or your purse, you can use those. You can use probably even a pull. Why can't I find my words? You can, doesn't have to be a drawer pull. It can be a knob. That's the word I'm looking for. You could hang it on a knob. You could even go ahead and hang it on your tree, although the other branches might kind of get in the way. So you just need something to hang your ornament on and some scissors, and that's it. If you did not get a kit and you just got the video, check the supply list that is up above, and it will tell you how much cord and what kind and all of that you need. And also, if you want to make more of these, that'll be helpful information for you. Okay, first things first, we have to cut our rope. Inside of your kit, you're gonna have 4 bundles that are all the same size, and then you're gonna have 1 bundle that's bigger. Let's start with the 4 that are all the same size. You may have a 15-inch piece wrapped around your little bundle. If not, that's gonna be the first cut that we're gonna make. So you will cut 15 inches for a little piece that we're gonna set aside. What I do next to make cutting a little easier and to make less that I have to measure is find both ends and be careful because it'll get knotted when you unwind it. So you might have to untie some knots. I line up my ends in one hand so that I have to make only half the cuts. So then when I get to the other end, I'm just gonna cut that in half. Now we're going to measure these to be about 21 inches. Some of them got cut a little different. Everyone should be able to get 21 inches. But you may be able to get 22. So if you cut 21, you may have some left over. So once I make my first cut, instead of measuring again every time, I'm just gonna use those first ones as a guide to cut my others. You know, every time I bang my scissors down, it's gonna be potentially loud in the microphone. So we will get from each strand 10 pieces. It's up to you. If you want to do all your cutting first, do these one at a time. Totally up to you. We're gonna move on. Fast forward, pretend we've cut them all. The first step is to make the ring that's gonna go around the ornament and hold all of our strings. So this may seem a little complicated at first. I'll go slow and you can rewind too if it doesn't make sense. You're gonna take one of your 10 strands we're gonna cross it over. We're trying to make these as even as we can. If they're not perfectly even, that's okay. And I make my loop relatively small just so it's less that I have to pull tight later. We're gonna take a second strand. I'm folding it in half. And I'm gonna place it with the loop on top of the cross that I made before. Now, this is where it feels like it's a little fumbly. I'm gonna pull those ends through. I feel like my fingers are in the way while I'm trying to show you this. Okay? And then I'm gonna pull it tight. So it looks just like that. What we just did here with this one is called a lark's head knot. You have 8 strands left, and we are gonna make a lark's head knot with the last 8 of them all around that loop that we just did. So we're gonna tie them all the way around here. I start back here in the center and work my way around just so it's less that I have to arrange later. So fold it in half. My loop goes on top, and then I'm gonna poke it under and pull those ends through. And then pull tight. When you pull tight, it may feel like everything tries to bunch up on you. So take your time with this. You have lots of them to practice on. So loop goes over. I'm gonna tuck it under my string, my ring, poke the ends through. Pull tight. You have to do this in real time. I am gonna fast forward it. Okay, once you have all of your 8 pieces around your ring, then this is piece number 9. Your ring is piece number 9. This piece that you tied on at the beginning is that 10th piece. Once you have those all the way around, you're gonna take these 2 ends and we're gonna pull tight. We're trying to make this as even as we can. So as I'm pulling, I'm kind of always checking these and making sure that they're staying even. Sometimes they stay perfectly even, sometimes not so much. So we're just doing the best we can, and we're pulling it all the way tight. So you can push these strands close together and pull this all the way tight. We're gonna cut your big piece twice as long as what you cut all the others. So you'll still cut that first 15-inch strip, and then you will cut 10 pieces that are 40 inches long instead of 20 to 21 inches. We're gonna start with this guy. So the first thing we'll do is take one of your bundles. We're gonna stick it through like that. Yep. Because we haven't had any scraps yet to put through the top, I'm gonna use the pipe cleaner that was left over from the top of my kit, and I'm gonna feed that through. You can also use, if you have ornament hangers, you can use those too. I'm just gonna hang it on my hook. All we have to do for this one is tie our gathering knot underneath. So to do that, take one of your 15 inches. As you gather it, you want to make sure that none of your pieces are crossed. You also want to make sure that they all are still tight. I can't see the top of mine. That everything is still nice and tight. And then to make it easier to see everything, you may want to take one of your other 15-inch pieces and just tie a knot underneath. We won't leave this one here. We'll end up taking it out. But when you tie that, it'll let you go all the way around your little ball and make sure that everything is spread out how you want. And remember, these are gonna be, these are gonna be hanging in your tree. You're only gonna see them from maybe 2 sides at one time. So if one side doesn't look quite so perfect to you, put that to the back. No one's gonna see it. All right. To do the gathering knot, first of all, you do not have to do a gathering knot. You can tie this again and call it good, okay? Totally up to you. But if you want to do a gathering knot, here's what we're doing. You're gonna take your 15-inch piece. So take out those 2 strands from the piece that we tied. I'm gonna move those out of the way so I don't accidentally get them wrapped up. So I leave my end, my free end, it's right there. And I'm making it be about 1 inch long, okay? So it's about down to my first knuckle on my thumb. And I'm gonna make a loop. Now I'm gonna wrap this all the way around everything. Once you get it wrapped around the first time, it gets a little easier. My loop was falling down. Okay, there we go. Now we can see. So I've wrapped it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to go at least 5 times. I've got enough to go 1 more. If you don't have enough, it's because you made your loop too big. So you may have to try this a couple of times before you get it right. Sometimes I have to redo it, 2 or 3 times. I'm gonna stick this end into the loop. Okay, into the loop. Now, I don't need all of this excess, so I'm going to cut some of that off, just some of it. I don't want to make it too short because I don't want it to come out. Now I'm going to take my end piece here and I'm going to pull down until my loop hides inside of those strands. There. I don't want to pull too far because I don't want my loop to come out the bottom, then the whole knot will come undone. Now I'm going to push this whole thing up to the top. There we go. And I can untie the knot that was holding everything in place. There we go. First one, done. Almost done. Now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut all of these strands loose. So you can decide how long you want to make these. If it's hanging in your tree, you don't probably don't want them too long because it's just gonna get in the way. So I cut mine kind of random. I'll cut some short ones and some longer ones. I cut them at different heights so that it doesn't look like I tried to cut them all evenly and missed. We can use some of these longer pieces. So if I cut them short and I have a longer piece left over, I can use that to tie into my next ornament to hang it. Okay, And then if you want, you can unfray these. Unfray? Fray. Unravel and fray these a bit. So you have already learned 2/3 of the knots that you need for this class. We've learned the lark's head knot that we have done a bazillion times all the way to make those rings. And then we just learned the gathering knot. So the only other thing that we need to know is the square knot, and we'll do that next. Next, this guy. It's all square knots all the way around. So we'll have 5 strands that come all the way down of just square knots. So square knots take up a lot of cord. This is going to be the one you're going to use with your longer group. So take your longer one, find the top, ornament goes through. Time you can use a hook, or I'm using a long strand from the ones I just cut, and if I can get it through, there we go. Oh, that's actually kind of easy. Could have been worse. All right, and then I'm just gonna tie this into a knot. Let's see. I'm gonna tie it in this kind of knot. Okay, I start with my ring, just so I can make everything tight. On a square knot, you're gonna have 2 knots in the middle. That is your core. And then we're only gonna use these outside strands to tie our knot. So I'm gonna start on the left, and I'm gonna go over my core, and then I'm gonna go behind the side, my strand on the right. And then I'm gonna take my strand on the right, and I'm gonna push it up behind everything, and I'm gonna pull it through that loop that I just made. I'm gonna hold my core strands tight as I pull both of my working strands tight. That's half of the knot. So now I'm gonna start on the right side. On the right side, I'm gonna go over and behind. And then I'm going to take the left side, I'm going to go behind everything and through the loop on the right. Hold my core strands tight. I'm holding them in between my middle and ring finger. Hold them tight. I'm going to pull tight on the side. We're going to keep doing that. So we start on the left, go over the center 2, behind the one on the right. Right side goes behind everything through the loop. Hold my core strands tight, pull my working strands evenly through. Start on the right side. Over and behind. Left side goes behind and through. Pull tight. Now, if I let this go, you can see that one of my working strands is coming toward me and the other working strand is going away from me. If the ball wasn't there, you'd be able to see it even more. I always want to start with the strand that's going away from me. So if your knots look different than mine, if it doesn't look like, see there's a hump and like a sideways V, a hump and a sideways V. On this side you can see that hump. So there's like hump, hump, hump. It's not twisting at all. If it doesn't look like mine, then probably you're starting from the same side every time. We just want to make sure that we're alternating which side we start from. So always start from the side that's going away from you. I'm going to start on the left, go over, behind and through. You should pick up the muscle memory for this, and then you'll be able to do it without even thinking about it, especially since we're doing this one first that's just square knot over and over and over and over. So technically, the square knot is both of these. It's starting on the left side once and then the right side once. Those together make one square knot. You can also start to see that the strands that you're working with are getting pretty short pretty fast. So this eats up through a lot of cord. That's why we're only doing one like this. Okay. So when you get to about the bottom of your ball, you can decide how far down you want to keep going. I did 1, 2, 9, 10. I did 10 on the samples. Let's see how many this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm gonna do a few more. Also, every cord is a little bit different. We've used a few different spools here, so your cord might be a little thicker than mine, a little thinner, and it might feel like it takes more knots. You just want to watch your ends and make sure that that you're going to have enough to get your gathering knot on those short ends. But remember, we end up cutting them rather short, so you don't have to have really long ends. If you do it too long, then when you try to pull everything together to gather it, they're gonna hit each other. So you want to just keep checking and make sure that as you pull this up and under your ball that you still have space to get your gathering knot at the end. So I think I'm gonna call it quits there. I'm going to do the rest of my strands and then see if I want to add any more or not. So to do the next set, I'm just gonna take the next set of 4 and keep going. One thing that I forgot to say, I said it to make sure you're pulling these tight, but if you don't, sometimes they'll get really loose like that in your knot. So if your knots are looking kind of funky, make sure you're just holding those down tight. And remember, if you get lost, if your knots start to look a little different or your strand is spiraling at all, just make sure that you're always starting with that strand that's pointed away from you. All right, I've got them done all the way around. I don't actually count. I just kind of hold them next to each other and see if they're about the same length. So they're all, oh, this one's a little shorter. Let me tie one more knot, hang on. So now I'm gonna gather all of it and, oh yeah, I think that looks great. None of them are hitting each other. This one maybe needs one more. Maybe even just a half of one. Okay, this is the most knots you have to do. So this one will take the longest. One of the reasons we're doing it first. So when I pull all these tight, I'm just looking to make sure that they have enough knots all the way around. And I think I'm gonna call that good. So I won't show you this again, but you're just going to do exactly like we did on the first one. You can tie a knot around, do a gathering knot. You also have now all of these long bits that you can use to tie your little knot to hold it, and then you can also use these as your loops for the other ornaments. Let's move on. Once you learn this next step, you really will have, well, I forgot the cords. Once you learn this next technique, you'll have everything you need to know to finish your other 2. So this is the third one. So again, I'm gonna start with my, my ring cord. Don't know what else to call it. I'm gonna start with that one. We're gonna tie a square knot, a full square knot, so starting one from the left, one from the right. We're gonna do that all the way around. So you'll just tie one square knot on each set. Okay, so it'll be a total of 5. Okay, some of your ornaments, like mine, might have a little blemish on them. That's just gonna go toward the back of the tree, the inside of the tree. All right, so we have one square knot tied all the way around. Now we're gonna make this basket. To do that, we're gonna take 2 cords from one knot and then the very next 2 from the other. Now, our center 2 are gonna become the core, and we're gonna work with those outer ones that were the core on the previous knot. But everything else stays the same. To make sure that I don't do a bunch of work that then I have to take out, I just do the first part of my knot. Okay, so I am just doing the left side over, right side behind and through. I'm gonna do that all the way around. So I'm always making sure that I'm taking the next 2 and that nothing is getting crossed over. This is really helpful because if you remember from the first ones that we did, how much of our cord those square knots all the way down took up. This, because we're alternating which cords are the core and which cords are our working strands, it kind of helps share the load. And our cords, we won't have really short cords and really long cords. They'll get used a little more evenly. Okay, these are my last set of 4. They'll really want to twist on you sometimes, so make sure that they're staying in order. After I get this first half done, what I'm going to do is look all the way around, and I'm trying to make sure that my that those half knots are even all the way around. Now, they may not be exactly even all the way around, but remember, we're not going to see them all at once, and so that'll be okay. I'm just trying to make sure that none of them are obviously shorter. Like that one looked a little shorter. Those look the same. Those look the same. Okay, I think we're good. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to finish those knots. So this is where you have to remember you've already done half of it. So now we're going to start on that side that's going backwards, which for me, that's the right side. So I'm starting on the right side and I'm going in front and behind. Holding those core tight and pulling up. If this is a little loose, that's okay because it needs to come around the shape of the ball when we're all done. So everything, it might look a little funky now, but when you're done, it'll all look okay. And if not, these knots are easy to take apart. So you can always take some out and redo it if you're not happy with how something looks. Like that. So you could end here. You could bring all of these down and tie it in a knot and just have one little basket. They kind of look like a Y to me, but I took it one step further and added another knot. So let me show you how to do that. We're gonna end up going back to our original pairs. So I'm gonna take 2 from this knot, 2 from this knot, and just like we did before, I'm only starting with that first half knot. Okay, I'm gonna make sure everything looks even-ish. This one looked a little too long. Take that out some. So mine are hitting right at like where the ball starts to come back down. So once I am satisfied, I'm gonna go do that last round of knots. Or I guess finish the knots. Oops, did this one wrong. Take it out. I used the wrong side first. So just like we did on the others, you'll tie this off and then do your gathering knot. Okay, so for the next two, the last two, it's just a different combination. Ooh, a different combination of those knots. So on this one, I did 2 and 2 in the middle, and then I just did 1 at the end again. And on this one, I did 2 and then 1 and then 2. So you can play around with these in any combination that you want and build them up different ways, and then they all get finished the same at the end. So gathering knot at the bottom, cut stuff off, spray it how you want, and hang them on your tree or give them away, or I don't know, get obsessed and make more. I love making